Hey, how are you? Happy
I'm,
Friday.
I know. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a good week. I'm glad it's Friday, but I'll be honest, I'm like super excited to be on this with you. Like extremely flattered, but definitely excited to be here. And I didn't want to mess it up. I've done this before and my connection's always been bad, so I'm like I'm going to be inside my office. I'm not going to smoke, unfortunately, because I don't want to mess this up. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, when I found out we were both in North Carolina, like I said, I was like, I gotta have her on. I didn't know we were both in the same state. I saw you were at Havana Fields, and I was like, oh, that's cool. She's at. I was like, I thought you were traveling or something. I didn't know you were like here.
Yeah, yeah. So being a rep, I've kind of moved around. It's kind of hard to keep track, but at the same time, I'm usually on the road a lot. So yeah. But no, I'm here. Like you're like my neighbor. And so when I realized that you were actually
Wow.
here, I was like, hey, why have we not smoked together? But
I know. Me too. I know.
eventually,
It's
soon, I
funny. I was
hope.
like, I've seen you. Yeah, and I've seen you at trade shows and everything else, and I've never made that connection. And you're always super busy, and you always have a big crowd around you. So I've never spoken to you either. So this is like our first time, like really speaking, which is fun. So I'm glad we have like a nice like one-on-one uh, occasion here, and
Yes.
people here are watching, like Stark. So so yeah, so I'm in Durham for the person who asks, um, in that part of North Carolina, so in Raleigh. So work in Raleigh. Um, Somebody just asked like where about in North Carolina were we? And I was saying I was, in Durham, which is like that unknown because people get confused because they only hear about Durham when they think about the airport. So they hear
Right.
Raleigh Durham Airport, and there's like no such thing as Raleigh Durham. It's two different it's two different areas, but only North Carolina people care and know about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in Raleigh, so I'm right next door to you. So,
Yeah, so like I work in Raleigh. So what part of Raleigh are you in?
oh, you're asking me? I have no idea location. I'm close to Crabtree Mall. I know
Okay,
that. Yeah.
I know that area.
Okay. Cool,
Cool.
cool.
Well, like what I wanted to do with today's session was, we with deep cuts, I try to open it up to like the whole industry. So I know there's plenty of podcasts out there, and most of the podcasts kind of feature the top people in the company. Then they recycle midway through the year, go back through that same list, which is fine. But for me, I wanted to open it up to different people in the industry and just kind of get to know them and what they do. And I know you're, for example, a cigar rep. And speaking to Oliver last year, before coronavirus and all this started, we were talking about reps, and he was saying that reps are such an important part of the cigar industry, yet they never get hardly any of the attention that they deserve. So this is kind of like the first foray into getting into the life of a rep and what you all do and what you all face and how life has kind of definitely changed for you all in terms of business with coronavirus. So uh, I'm looking forward to hearing your story today.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you asking me to be on. I'm actually a fairly new rep in comparison to some who've been on the road for as long as I've been alive, you know. But I do think that the roles of a rep have changed as of lately, especially more than just being an order taker or with just sales. We're also, especially in a company like mine, is we are the face of our company. So there's a lot of promoting and advertising, education, and all of that that comes with being just a rep. So, I mean, I love it, but I mean, tell me what you want to know. I got you. I just don't even know where to start, though, you know?
Well, I always like to start at the very beginning. So before you came into the cigar industry, what were you doing? What was your background? That's a good place to kind of start.
All right. Okay. Well, so I think everybody has a story before they got into cigars, and mine is I'm actually I'm an interior designer.
Wow.
I went to college for interior design. I got my degree. I worked in the business. I mean, even for a short stint, I was on a television show on women's entertainment for interior design, and I own my own business, and I love that, but the economy kind of took a hit really bad in about 2008, and
Hmm.
it affected my business because I did residential design, and that's when building just stopped, especially in Las Vegas. And so, struggling to keep going, I eventually just fell into cigars as a consumer at first. I'll be honest, I was just a consumer. It was a great stress relief as a business owner at the time to go somewhere where I can relax, I can decompress, not think about things, but then also network. And so a cigar shop was definitely my go-to, my place of relief. And it got to a point where, I was spending so much time at a cigar lounge, I figured I might as well work there on the weekends, right?
Right.
Um, and as anybody who consumes cigars, they know it gets pricey. I mean, you can rack up a pretty good bill monthly if you're smoking on a daily basis. And so I figured, you know, um, I can save money, one for getting a good discount on cigars, but then also I can be a member at a lounge I couldn't afford to be a member at, so I worked there on the weekends. It was actually Walnut Creek, California, Casa del Acoso. It's where I worked for like a few years. Just as behind the counter as a retail, I really got to learn more about cigars by working the humidor and selling cigars. I mean, I'm guilty of it, but I started smoking flavored infused like in the beginning, um, like a lot of women have, and I needed to expand my palate. So then the owner of the shop told me that okay, for every day I work, I could smoke one free cigar as long as it was a cigar I've never smoked before, just so that I can taste all the cigars in the humidor. And that really got me to appreciate different cigars, different blends, from different countries. And I would meet reps, naturally, working at the shop. And I loved the concept of getting paid to smoke at a lounge. And I'm like, how? How do you get your job? I want your job. And and they kind of gave me some advice. A lot of the reps I know started at a shop, and so I was hopeful. And I mean, I'd apply for jobs, different manufacturers, but I always got that same, oh, you don't have enough experience, and so I just kept at it. I moved back to Las Vegas, like in 2013, and I got lucky that there was a shop that just opened up called La Casa, and the owner had a few shops in Michigan, decided to open up one in Las Vegas, and I became the manager of that shop. And it was a cigar bar, a music lounge. I mean, that was a dream job in its own. That is what got me to now want to have my own shop eventually. Not right now, but definitely eventually. Just because the energy of a shop, right? And
Right.
the camaraderie and like the customers. I want to say that is absolutely like my favorite is when you have your locals, your regulars who come in and you know. So still working at the cigar bar as a manager, to be honest, like I kind of forgot the whole idea about being a rep. Like I enjoy what I do. I'm running one of the hottest cigar bars in Las Vegas right now. I mean, it's Vegas, right?
Right.
So it wasn't until like 2 years in, I finally got a phone call back from an application I put in 2 years before about being a rep. And they asked me if I was still interested. And at that time, like, I still wanted it. And so that's how I got into the industry part of cigars. So I want to anybody who's listening, if being a rep is something that you are hoping to do, like definitely put in the time, learn the cigars, but don't give up, right? Because it took years before my initial application actually hit. And I mean, the only thing is nobody wants to give up their position. Like, because I know I don't, right? And so there's only so many manufacturers and so many reps. and people stick with their job because it honestly it is a dream job to be able to get paid to smoke, and like I think the funnest thing is going to the trade shows, right? When you
Yes.
get to see everybody, and it's like we're so in tune with the cigar industry. It's like the one time everybody's in one place. And that's kind of what makes like our I guess our field or our niche market really exciting is because it feels big, but it's really really small in comparison. But everybody knows everybody. So I mean, once I finally got into the rep position, I kind of bounced around from a few different companies, met some great people, but now I am with Altadis USA, and I mean, I came from the West, but now I'm in North Carolina, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, that's cool. Like I know there's so many people in the industry. Those people who've had a long kind of career arc, the good ones have started off, I found, in retail. So
Mm-hmm.
before coming in at some weird angle. So I think that's so cool that you started in retail before you got, because how can you know the customers and know the products and know the profiles and the issues, that the questions that the customers ask and all those things that go into, selling and marketing a cigar, unless you've started off in retail.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when you start from the bottom and you work your way up, every aspect of not just the product, but how to deal with people, the customer service, and everything else. But yeah, but I think I definitely wouldn't be as successful as a rep if I if I didn't have the experience behind the counter at retail, because I get to put myself in their shoes and be understanding of like when I'm trying to sell a product or trying to convince them on doing an event, like knowing what it's like to be on that side and the time of the year and everything. So then we can I can act accordingly and be sympathetic to whatever was going on. So kind of like with COVID and everything, this is so uncertain for a lot of people, but just trying to understand, okay, where are my customers at right now? What can I do to support them? And even though I can't be face to face with them, how can I help them continue to grow? So
Yeah, and since you do have that experience and that retail perspective, you know, what do you think is the biggest issue that a lot of retailers face that the industry just doesn't really pay attention to as much as it should?
what do you mean? Like break that down a little bit.
Like, like when you're a sales rep or you're selling a product, like you come up with a new product, a new release, you just push it to the retailers, but you don't know, like I said, sometimes what the retailers are going through. Or during COVID, it's a tightrope. Like, do you offer retailers just a deal? Do you back off and not offer them a deal? Are they looking for something else? Are they looking just for, swag to help push your product? Like for you, like when you look at for the retailers that you have dealt with, what are they asking for, or what kind of things do they need the most help with, I guess?
Okay, so I guess it's kind of obvious that I'm going to say, every shop operates differently.
All
And I
right.
think with COVID, depending on the state and county regulations, it really depends on what they're allowed to do. Like um, some of them had to do curbside pickup where they weren't allowed to let anybody in the shop. And then some of them were allowed to let people in the shop, but they couldn't touch anything in the humidor. And so, one, knowing what my customers can and can't do, and then working with that. And then also understanding based on their location, what kind of customers are coming by. Are they your local regulars, or are they tourists that are stopping by, grabbing and going? I want to say the one thing that was baffling, not just to me, but to some of my customers, is that when they couldn't let a customer walk into the humidor, they realized that their customers did not know what they smoked. They knew where in the humidor their cigar was, but they didn't know what it was called or,
Oh
you
my
know, or
gosh.
any of that. So luckily I work for a brand that is very familiar. I'm so sorry. It's my cat Mocha. He wants to join in. But luckily I work for like Romeo and Juliet and Monte Cristo and people know that brand and
Right.
but customers realize that their customers didn't know what they smoked, but they're visual, right? So they know visually in the humidor where it's at, but they didn't know what it was called. And so that honestly helped probably my business more than maybe, let's say, a company that has a name that's hard to pronounce, or maybe there's no name on the band and they can only describe the band. So I want to say a lot of me helping my customers is understanding what they're going through right now and their customers that they service. Now, like when you mentioned when it comes to like doing events and maybe even pitching a new product, I'll be honest, lately I've had the opportunity to work with my marketing and advertising team, which I know a lot of manufacturers don't necessarily have that type of team in their, I guess in corporate office, but we have an awesome team and learning how to, I guess, help each other, right? They've got all these ideas and it's my job to execute them. But like we got to be on the same page because I got to let them know that's a great idea, but my
Right.
customers don't really have that. And so like working different angles. The really cool thing I will have to say about Altadis, and I'm gonna admit because I saw a few of them who are on this podcast or your live right now, they're all listening, is we have a strong young female team when it comes to our marketing and advertising, which you don't get to see very often in our company. And so I think we have a little bit of like leeway. I'm not saying that we're millennials, but kind of we are. And so with this whole with technology and using Instagram and social media, I think that we can actually become successful in pushing out new product despite the fact we're going through COVID because we're a little bit more in tune with like what's going on when it comes to social media because that's the only form of advertising we've got right now, right?
Right.
I mean, television is even going out the door because of, like Netflix and, Amazon Prime and Fire Stick, all of that stuff. So where else are we really advertising but on social media? You know what I mean? So
And I do.
I
I
don't know if I
know.
answered your question.
You did.
Sorry.
And I know your team. So I know Diana and Gabrielle and
Hmm.
Jennifer and Raphael and Oliver and Brad at the Casa de Monte Cristo stuff. So
Which I saw your live with that.
right.
That was
So
cool.
you have a very active team, which is nice because you know that you all do work together. And I don't think you all would have had the success that you had without that cohesion. Like if you had gone into COVID and you were all in your own worlds and different little islands, it would have been so hard, I think, for you all to just pivot. But you seem to have everybody this really quickly, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You all were doing the Cigar Life marathon. Raphael was
Hmm.
hosting that pretty quickly. I mean, you've had product releases that you just rolled out and you've done digitally, which is nice because I think regardless of where you are, people have been able to take part and know that. So, I mean, how has life kind of changed? And you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but you know, during COVID, because pre-COVID, the whole industry was travel. You got on a plane like every month. You were somewhere. Every other week for some people, you were somewhere completely different. You were doing events. You were doing this nonstop, and then it was just like March 13th, 14th, 15th. Somehow it's just like everything just came to a halt, and we're all having to pivot and deal with a completely different industry now. So how have you adapted?
Oh, well, it'd be easy for me to say, oh yeah, I adapted fine. In reality, it's been tough. Like personally for me, it's been tough. Because when you're so used to moving, 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 and then it comes to a complete stop, at first it's blissful, right? Like, oh, I finally get to enjoy the mortgage that I pay for, because I'm here. I will say I have been able to do some do-it-yourself projects at home that I've been wanting to do, but I will say that it, personally for me, only speaking for myself, it's been kind of tough. Like, so I'm from the West. All my family and friends are like in California and Las Vegas, and so having not like nobody here, I realized that I would indulge in work, and I would lose myself into work, and that would keep me busy from not thinking that, like, I don't have anybody here, because usually I'd work, 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 and then I'd take a trip. And
Right.
then I'd re-energize, come back, work, 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 and then I'd take another trip. But now there's not even any travel, right? Like, I haven't left at all. So I want to say that it's hard to indulge in work when there's so much idle time, right? Like, yeah, there's emails, there's phone calls, but then there's like a break. And then trying to cook for myself, and I'm like, I'm not the best chef. I'm like, all right, so let's try this. And I'm learning though. I'm learning how to cook, but it's been tough. I'll be honest. I'm getting back on the road next week. Not like full time, like every, because you still got to be super cautious. But I will admit there were times I was so stir crazy. I would take a 2 hour drive just to smoke a cigar, only to turn around and drive 2 hours back.
Wow.
Because I just miss being in the car. I just miss just smoking in the car, listening to music, and just driving. But I'm going crazy. Like, I miss people in general. I just miss people. So,
It's definitely been weird. Like I was thinking about that this morning. Like a couple months ago, I started walking in the mornings, and
mhm.
it's just a mindless activity because I do the same route. And I was just thinking, like, what have I learned during this quarantine time? And it was like, you know, the importance of having time to yourself, because I've learned that I was throwing myself into work so much in the last couple of years that I would never have any time to myself to do hardly anything. I would read an occasional book here or there, but as for like taking time to like just do nothing and really learn to just be okay with that, I've learned that during quarantine. I learned that, and I learned some other skills. So I've personally
Yeah.
learned, how to do things like this to interact with people from a safe distance. I've learned a lot about photography, a lot about
Nice.
video, video stuff that I never wanted to really learn about or had a reason to, and all of a sudden this year is just like, oh, I think this is the time to learn it. So
No, I understand. I totally understand. I think I've been more active on social media, which you know how time consuming that is. I mean, I
yes,
see how you have been completely indulged in it, and so that's time consuming, but we've got time right now, right? And
yeah,
so, I mean, and congratulations on building yourself up with what you've got going. I mean, that's impressive. As many interviews as you've done since it seems like since COVID started, I'm
I know
completely
it's
impressed.
been crazy. It's been about 30, 37 or so, I think, with today's. So
Well,
30,
congratulations to you
thank
for
you.
that.
I know it's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I've definitely caught up in reading. I'm a nerd. I love to read books, but I have been able to catch up on some reading. I have been meditating, doing mindfulness, started doing some stretches. Luckily, I've got to play a little bit of tennis. My golf swing is getting a hell of a lot better.
That'd be good
So,
when you can socialize with people. You'd be like, look what I learned. Pow.
right? Look how far I can hit it, So, but so I mean, there's a little bit of things. I see Ed. He's Ed from
hmm
Havana Phils. How
Yep.
you doing? But yeah, no. I mean, quarantine. I mean, I think it's good that we've paused, right? We've been forced to actually slow it down, and we can appreciate, the things that probably we easily overlooked before, right? So I actually am I'm enjoying the peace and solitude, but I'm so ready to get back on a flight. I'm so ready to get back out somewhere. Just
I know
anxious.
earlier Diana asked about your
Huh?
background. So what's on the wall behind you?
Oh, well, so I've got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm a major Alicia Keys fan, and that was a signature poster I got back in the day, so I always have to keep it. Vision boards, right? I know that sounds super cheesy, but you'd be amazed at what you could accomplish if you know what it is that you want.
Exactly.
So I've got a few vision boards. My bookshelf and my books. Like, I'll be honest, like my whole house, a majority of the public space is very simple and it has what it has. But my office, and if it wasn't such a mess, I'd give you the whole tour. But I've like got a whole bunch of stuff. Like, let's see, like I don't know if you can see, but I've got like just a whole bunch of stuff in the office and like hats and stuff. But um, this is my creative space. Like, this is where my magic happens. It's like my organized chaos. But I think as I consider myself an artist, like I can sit here and just remind myself what I'm shooting for, remind myself of what I'm going for, and it's my happy space. It's my creative space. So,
Well, that's
so
awesome.
yeah. So this yeah. So all of that is just it's me. It's my organized chaos. So that's who I am.
It's funny because from the background, from like my perspective, it almost looked like it was like vinyl records, and I was like, oh my gosh, is that vinyl? But
Oh, wait, hold on, because I know that you have a vinyl collection.
I
So
do.
now I gotta show you. So now I don't know if I'm gonna lose you when I do this, but I've got my vinyl collection over here. I've only
Okay,
got a couple hundred though. Not a whole lot, but
that's a
but
lot.
I see you got your selection. Um, and I definitely have mine, but I don't listen to it as often as I would like to, because flipping those records after two or three songs,
I know it's
it's
a lot, but you know what? I like Saturday mornings when I'm cleaning my apartment rather than listening to it on my home pod like I usually do.
yeah,
Um, Putting it on the record because you can't skip around like you would like
yeah.
home with the home pod and everything else. It comes to a song and I'm like skip next song, and with the vinyl you can't do that unless you really go over and manually do it. So that's why I kind of like vinyl. Plus I like the artwork and like the thought that goes into it. So I spend
Yeah.
like so much money on vinyl, it's ridiculous. So
Well, so a lot of the vinyl that I have, I want to say is going to be like 90s to early 2000 R&B and hip hop. And so like a lot of what I have is like, might be SWV, maybe some old P. Diddy and stuff like that. And so it's horrible when I start playing records because it's like karaoke for me. Like, oh my God, I forgot about this song, but it's all the stuff that I went to high school and grew up with. And so, yeah. I don't have any classic goodies. I just have like what I grew up with. So,
see, I
yeah.
have classic, but they're like classic pop. So they're like
Uh,
classics as of like 2000 or so.
yeah, no, I saw you had some Beyonce in there, so
I have some Beyonce. I have some Reba McEntire. I just got my Gwen Stefani 15th anniversary of Love Angel Music Baby on vinyl. I
nice.
got I got my Lady Gaga Fame Monster vinyl set. So you know that's where all my money goes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little
Cigars
bit.
and vinyl, huh?
Exactly. Luckily,
See,
like all
those are my vices too. Cigars. I don't spend much on vinyl anymore, but cigars, books, liquor, and yeah, vinyl sometimes. But I'm a sucker for books. Don't take me to a used bookstore because we will be there. So,
I have a whole bookshelf, and I've like looked at it every single day since quarantine, seeing it. I wish I could have gotten through more books than I have, but for some reason, I just in this space, in this mindset, when I get to the end of the day, I've done so much that I just can't sit down and read like I was before. It's
yeah.
weird. It's weird.
No,
I can't.
I'm on the same boat with you. Like I can't focus.
Right.
I want to read sometimes, and I just it's like I'm reading it and I didn't retain anything. So it's like, okay, it's pointless. I have been smoking and drinking more. That's not a good thing, but I mean, I have been smoking and drinking. But the good thing is it's made for good content. That's what I've been posting on social media.
Exactly. People love those kinds of pictures.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with some of the new stuff coming out, um, I'm seeing that some of the other companies are also starting to roll out some new stuff. I think that's what consumers want, though. I mean, in reality, despite the fact that we might not be able to go out as much, we still want new stuff. We still want to, see what else is out there, try something new. So I'm glad that as far as with my company, we haven't slowed it down. We've kept it going. I feel so bad. I see all these messages and I can't respond because it's moving too fast.
In terms of like, let's talk about some of those new releases from Altadis, because I know that there's been a lot and maybe some people have missed out on some of them. So what are some of those new releases that have come out in the last couple months that maybe we kind of looked past or we forgot?
Okay. Yeah. So I want to say since COVID came into play, we had this big push on Romeo and Juliet Reserve Real Nicaragua, and like Oliver created this awesome like gift. I'm sorry, golf sweepstakes with an awesome golf bag and all this stuff, and of course we can't push it out like we wanted to because honestly, shops don't want to do events because of the gatherings or whatnot.
Right.
And so Reserve Real Nicaragua, most of our new releases have come from Nicaragua, from AJ Fernandez's factory, and Reserve Real Nicaragua came out, and it's a good blend. I want to say it's not like the typical Reserve Real. It's more of a medium, not so much a light, smooth one, but a solid medium. Um, Simultaneously, this cigar is one of my favorites came out, but it totally got overlooked, and it's called H. Chapman 1844 Añejo Reserve Añejo, a phenomenal cigar from like I want to say the original blend was from Honduras, and I'm talking about it just had this richness to it, a solid medium, great smoke, but it came out the same time as Reserve Real Nicaragua, and we kind of had to push the Romeo and Juliet because it's just a bigger brand for us.
Right.
But if anybody can get their hands on that H. Upman Añejo, absolutely one of my favorite cigars. And I've been able to sneak some boxes out to my customers who like haven't heard of it, and it's hit like where they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a new one." They're like, "I'll take 2 more boxes." So that's been a hit. Just last month, we came out with the Onyx Bold. Now, that one, I know that we have been pushing. I'm a shout out Farah Gray, just popped in. I mean, major fan of Dr. Farah Gray. I'm so excited he popped in real quick. But, okay, so like pause, fangirling. Okay, so, Onyx Bolds came out and,
yeah, I have pictures
that,
of it. So for
yes,
people
you
who
got it right there. Yep. So that one is a full-bodied Nicaraguan. Came from AJ's factory as well. San Andreas Maduro or San Andreas wrapper with, of course, um, uh, the binder and filler also from Nicaragua. So that came out. What else? We have a few other ones kind of already coming out. We have Oliveros. I know that it's been aged really well. I don't have a solid opinion on it yet. I smoked it a couple times, but you know how it is. Like you smoke a cigar and you're like, not sure. Let me try it with something else, And so I'm still figuring that one out as far as like where on my palate that falls within. And then we've got some Vega Fina coming out. Some other stuff I don't even know if I'm allowed to say is coming out, but we do have a few. We
so
do
the
have a
year's
few.
not over yet.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's not over yet, but we've got a few other things in the lineup, and I'm excited about it because we're utilizing more of social media. So we've got influencers that we're throwing in there. We've got um, I see Deanna said no. What did I do? I probably said something I wasn't supposed to say. I got my company like so um but um but yeah, so we got some new stuff coming out. We got things down the pipeline, and I'm excited because we're trying out using social media and influencers to help get it out there. Because like you brought it up earlier in the conversation that it's a little hard to get customers to bring in a new product. So
Right.
we're targeting consumers now. Where if like we could get it in consumers' hands, have them asking about it, then they're gonna ask our customers like, "Hey, bring this in." So we're trying something new. I think it'll be okay. I hope. Well,
And I know for these when you're talking about the push this year and doing it more virtually, like I've seen you all hop on a lot more virtual kind of things like this, like Instagram lives and Facebook live stuff to kind of push these things. And I like that the women are up front. I know Gabrielle's hosted a few, Diana's hosted a few. So I
yeah,
like that because to me, and this has always been my thing and since working on magazines is that like if you know the industry, you know that women are so involved in the industry, but for some reason when it comes to the media or the attention, then it goes all to the men. So it's kind of played out to be like the male dominated industry, but it's not really, in reality. So I like that you all are like you said, there's so many women at the forefront of pushing all to the sport. I think that's why you've had a little bit more traction than some of the other companies because women just think and do things in a completely different way. And like you said, you're more comfortable with social media sometimes than men are because men are just like, well, what am I supposed to do? I know nobody wants to see me post my food, and it's like that's not that's not what social media is for. That's the old thinking, and like you know how to use it, how to communicate. So I think you all have done like a really good job at that. And like I said, and I've been following you all and all these releases and seeing all these live events go on. So it's been fun to watch.
yeah. I think it's evolving for the better. I mean, I think there's a lot that still needs to be learned when you utilizing social media as a tool for advertisement. Because people still want to feel like they're dealing with another human being, right? They don't want to be sold. They don't want just commercials, you know? And I think there has to be an equal balance because it has evolved from, posting your food, what you ate for breakfast and checking
Right.
into the gym. I mean, to now like actually making it more of like lifestyle oriented, right? And finding your niche with creating a lifestyle that goes behind whatever product it is you're trying to promote or push. And I mean, cigars, I mean, you got to admit there's so many different avenues with cigars that it is a luxury lifestyle, but you can associate it with golf or poolside or, at a cigar shop or tailgating. There's so many different avenues that you can take when you're creating this lifestyle of related to cigars and utilizing it for advertisement and marketing and stuff like that. So um, we're still learning. I'm all for it. I mean, it's one of those like you might as well try it because even if it doesn't work, at least we tried it, right? And I've noticed companies that are pretty quiet about it. I'll be honest, I used to work for a company where they told me up front that social media doesn't equate to sales. And I kind of want to debunk that.
Right.
Like yeah, it can, but I think it's because there's no solid evidence that, like there's no measure of like how do we track that this sale actually came from a social media ad and maybe having to figure out how we can do that. I don't know, but we build up hype because social media is what everybody's going to now. right? Whether it's like Facebook, Instagram, I mean, TikTok and Snapchat have been big. I have yet to even touch on those. I just don't have enough time.
Yeah,
But but in reality, you got to think about it. That's the next generation of consumers. So maybe it is something that we like, it needs to be touched on because we need to create more consumers in our industry, right? And it's always going to be that next generation below us. And so it's how do we create a lifestyle that's appealing to that generation? How do we get in touch with them? And I know that sounds kind of bad, but I'm realizing that TikTok is not just teenagers. I mean, you got some grown people on TikTok and stuff. So by no means am I saying, oh, we're gonna get the little kids smoking cigars. It's,
exactly.
you know, but I think I don't know. It's trial and error, but I'm all for it. I'm here for that. So we'll see.
Well, I think because when I look at your Instagram, for example, what I think you do a really good job at is, like you said, it's lifestyle driven. So it's not like you're posing, and it's like it's very authentic. So every post that you post, you feel like that's you, and you have a certain style and approach to it, which is good. And I think a lot of older people who maybe aren't as accustomed or comfortable with using social media, they don't know how to use it like that. And I've found, and maybe you've experienced this, is that like if I'm pushing out a product or promoting something, if I promote it through a brand and it's just like, here it is, I mean, people could care less. But if they trust you and they have a relationship with you, then they get really interested and they're like, oh, wow, Jaxx is posting this. I want to go check this out too. Or, oh, that's a new cigar and she's actually posting with it. She wouldn't post anything bad, so I want to go try it. So I think people trust people rather than trusting brands sometimes. And I think that's what
Absolutely.
works. And what you said about going after consumers and having them help promote what you're doing is a good idea because, again, they trust people rather than brands. Like there's no Altadis U.S.A. Instagram account. It's different brands. And each brand, I'm sure, has a different customer kind of target vibe and all that. So I think it's fun at what you're doing and good what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think being able to connect with with other people on social media, kind of like how with me and you, right? Like prior to this, I knew you as like your brand and your interviews, and that's who you are. So I know what you do, but then also there's that personal aspect. That's why I know you have records because I see it on your social media. But that makes you real, right? That makes you
Yeah.
like a real person, and hence like you can connect because it's a real human being on the other end. And I think there's, like I mentioned, there's so many different avenues when it comes to cigars that everybody can have their own little niche and their own following. Like one guy I follow, he promotes like bourbon, cigars, golf, and his beard. I'm like, that's awesome. And I sometimes I don't even know what the hell he's saying, but he looks pretty cool smoking a cigar, drinking straight out of a bottle, hitting a golf ball, and he's got his beard. I'm like, okay, that works for you. So like like I think we all try to find our niche, but the connection is that cigar, right? And or let's say it's liquor or whatever it is, a book or a record or whatnot. But like you said, when you feel like you're connected with somebody, you're like, I gotta check that out. I gotta check out that book or maybe listen to that song because or whatnot. But it's I guess trying to make something like social media, which people say is not reality, trying to make it reality, right? Try to
Right.
make it as real as possible.
And I know,
Because go
and I
ahead.
know somebody said that they said what I like about Jax is that when you speak to her, she talks back. So I think that's important too because people forget the social part of social media, and
Yeah.
sometimes they just post and it's just like that's it. And so when you sit there and you respond back and you create that conversation, that sells. And it's hard, like you said, it's hard to track it and to put it into ROI and all that kind of stuff for a
Yeah.
business. But it has a real value because people trust. I've known people who have just watch like an interview like this, and they're like, oh, now I'm willing to try that cigar, or can you put me in touch with that person because I want to actually try it now. And nothing changed other than us, people having a conversation and them seeing, oh wow, it's a real person behind the brand. So that's what drives me crazy sometimes, when you don't know who is behind some of these brands, and you're like, why aren't there people associated with it? And it's just a product, and it's like, that's could be any other product out there. It's the people behind it that kind of bring it to life.
Absolutely. I think too is like with somebody takes the time to comment like on a photo, I like definitely want to make the time to comment back, because I'm grateful, because sometimes you might post something and then you'll have a description at the bottom and people don't read it, so they'll just like it, right? But if I ask a question and somebody genuinely answers like the question, that to me is like, okay, respect. Like, it's not just scrolling, double clicking, scrolling, double clicking. It's actually, you actually looked at my content, because it took a while for me to type that shit up. So I mean, the fact that you're gonna read it and respond, I'm like, I got you. I respect that. So yeah, I get that.
In terms of these virtual events that you've done, because I saw that you've been doing a few. I think you did one with Anstead's a couple weeks ago. Like how are they going? Because I know that's another social, like you said, social media type thing, but it's a completely different vibe than what people in the industry are used to. You're used to going into a store, the rep has a table set up, they sit there and talk to you, they hand out stuff. What's these virtual events been like for you, and how have you gotten them to work? Because I'm pretty sure the first few are probably like pancakes. They don't turn out like you think they're going to turn out. So you kind of learn along the way of how to make it kind of go more in the way that you want it to go.
So I've got a confession for you. I didn't do a virtual event with Amsteads. I kind of crashed a virtual event with Drew Estate, not realizing it was actually a virtual event. I thought they were just doing some social like thing, how like people do Zoom and stuff like that. And so I actually, not knowing, crashed the Drew Estate event. But I thought it was so cool, because I was like, that's how you do it. Because I didn't know. I've been doing like, I don't want to say I've been doing real events. They've been very skewed. Like, I've done offsite events with limited amounts of people, social distancing. Anstead has done what they call it a social distancing event, which was like a clay shooting event where, people are in groups. It's like golf except with clay shooting, which was like super fun. So he's done events like that I've done with them, and I think with people not being able to gather, I want to say every single rep who was part of that, which was about like 7 or 8 of us, were like, we're gonna be there, and so we went just so we could see each other, but
right.
Social distancing or whatnot. It's so tough to social distance when you're smoking. I mean, you could sit a few feet away from somebody, but just like when you're eating, you don't have a mask on, so you're smoking. But I didn't do a virtual event with them. I crashed one, but it was so fun though. I will admit that. Yeah, but no, I think some events are coming back. Most companies or most shops are doing in-store promotions, but I've personally have done some social distancing events where I'll only invite a few people. Like I've done for Onyx, I invited maybe about like 10 to 12 women to do a tasting, but that's so far that's about it though.
Do you think this will be kind of the norm for the rest of this year? Because I know we're at the tail end of summer, and then fall for a lot of people it gets iffy depending on what part of the country you're in. It either kind of stays mild. Here in North Carolina, it stays mild for a little while, or you go from like Sahara to Antarctica. So
right.
Do you think we're going to be still kind of like you said, maybe in-person events will just be like invite only for a little while until we can get to bigger crowds, or what's your prediction for that?
All right, so I want to say most almost all of the big massive events, like whether it's Big Smoke or, conferences. I mean, even with Casa de Monte Cristo, how they would do their festivals, everybody has canceled their major events until the end of the year. So nothing that's happening in 2020. I believe, and I've seen more of smaller gathering events where maybe the maximum is 50 people. Typically, it might be an outside vendor event, like not at a shop, but outside, whether it's a dinner or like whether it's golf or clay shooting. So I will say for anybody who wants to go to any of these social gatherings, jump on the ticket because everything is pre-purchased now, maximum of 50 people. It's as social as you're gonna get right now, but it's limited because whatever venue is hosting it wants to be very cautious. The shop who's hosting it wants to be very cautious. And then the manufacturers involved with it also, because nobody wants to have the blame for starting something, right? But I want to say that if events are going to happen from now up until the end of the year, they will be definitely smaller as far as capacity goes. I want to say in-shop actual in-shop events will probably be discouraged because they don't want everybody coming at one time, but maybe more or less there's going to be monthly promotions, that happen throughout the month or week or whatnot. But I will say for anybody who has a local shop, if they know that there's going to be an event coming up and it's limited capacity, if you really want to go, purchase your ticket immediately. And because that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that, like, whether it's in Virginia or here in North Carolina, like, what you laughing at? Who's talking shit? Let's see, hold on.
Look at all your fans commenting. They're posting such.
Oh, I ain't trying to hear him. Whatever. I'm cute. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. So I want to say that's my prediction for how events are gonna go. At least up until December. And like when January hits, like who knows what's going to happen. I think people are still going to be really cautious. Even if there's a vaccine, people are still going to be extremely cautious. So I want to say that the outlook on what cigars are going to look like when it comes to gatherings, most likely it's going to be an outdoor event. There'll be tents or maybe it's just open air, but I think outdoor events are going to be like the way it's going. And personally, for me, I feel more comfortable going to an event if it was outdoors and it was spacious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I've told people there have been some events that they're like, you want to come? I'm like, no, not right now. I just don't like not indoors. No,
right.
Especially like all the news lately has been about indoor events since the weather's getting ready to change, and I was like, no, I just think we need to be a little bit cautious still until we figure this out, and then when the vaccine comes out, see how people deal with it, how they react to it. I'm not a big fan of rushing to take any vaccine without seeing how other people react to it personally. So I'll be kind of quarantining.
Well,
until...
you know how it is. It's like nobody buys the first iPhone, right? You wait till you get all the glitches out and you get like the second or third or even fourth version of it. So it's like, yeah, you can come out with a vaccine. Let's wait and see
exactly
how y'all react to that. So I'm with you on that one. But like for now, like I think as long as we're respectful of others, I know there's people out there who's like anti-mask, but it's not about you, it's about other people. Like if you care about other people, just put one on. I mean, just put one on. Like I'm Filipino, a lot of my family works as nurses, they work in the medical and they wear the mask all day when they work. I'm talking about hours. And so to wear a mask like just for a few minutes, going grabbing something from a store and coming back, I mean, come on. There's nothing,
So for those people, as we approach the end of our little interview time, for those people who want to follow you on social media and they don't know you from Instagram, what can they look for? What accounts should they look for you? And then what accounts, because I know there are more than one, what accounts should they kind of look up for Altadis and their different brands?
Okay, well, so of course, like, Jaxx, I only have the Tobacconista Jaxx on Instagram. I know I have a Facebook and a Twitter account, but I don't ever go on those. And so Instagram is the best bet because that's the only thing I have time for lately. But as far as the company, like I represent Monte Cristo, Romeo and Juliet, Eight Shopman, Aging Room, and then also a Cigar Life, which is under Cigar Lifer on Instagram, is definitely the ones I'm attached with. Um, and of course, like there's Onyx, but I don't think we know who's actually running that account. But yeah, those are the ones that they can jump on board and follow because I'll be somewhere nearby there, you know? So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, like I said, I look forward to when we can hang out. I know it's on the books. I know Diana asked, have we ever hung out? We haven't, because I just realized that she lives
We're
in
neighbors.
North Carolina. Like we're like nearby. So when it's safe to hang out, of course we will. But I want to thank you for coming on today and talking
Thanks,
about you and talking about all the Altadis stuff going on. And thank you for everybody joining us, especially Diana and Gabrielle and the rest
Great.
of the Altadis crew. It was nice for them to show up and support both of us and what we're doing. And I look forward to our next encounter, whenever that is.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to all the viewers and those leaving comments. I wish I could have responded to everybody. I saw a lot of like my I wouldn't say customers, but like customers on here as well and followers. And so I appreciate the love from both you for allowing me to be on your show interview and for those who actually followed, even if they were talking shit like Damon, but it's okay.
Well, definitely.
Thank
Well,
you so much.
have a great day and enjoy your Labor Day. I know that's
You
coming
as
up. And
well.
like I said, I'll look forward. We need to keep in touch and do more of these whenever we have a new release to kind of hype up. So look forward to working with
Absolutely.
you and chatting with you a little bit more.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye.